The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Greetings and welcome back to the Personal Safety Show. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor and Stress to Logic, your host. And we are continuing the conversation with Dominic Syracuse from Cognitive Behavioral Theater. He was about to tell us about a physician friend who had a desire to go on a cross-country motorcycle trip. Check it out.
And he saw that movie, and he thought the idea of just traveling on a motorcycle, taking a year off and traveling on a motorcycle, would be so freeing. And so he decided he wanted to do that. Just from watching that movie, he had graduated med school, he was figuring out what he wanted to do, and he said, I want to go on a motorcycle. I just want to take 6 months to a year off and go on a motorcycle. And he did. And he ended up going through Southeast Asia and all this stuff. Well, he told me a story about how he was there and there was a woman who was being attacked. Ultimately, like he and a group of friends were walking. They saw a woman being attacked and they, for all intents and purposes, like scared the guys off, made sure she was taken care of, like took her to a hospital. And she was safe. And the interesting thing was that if you want to, pull it back far enough, it's like if he wouldn't have watched that movie
right,
and been inspired to go do that thing, then there's a chance that woman's life might not have been saved. So we really don't know the impact that we have far-reaching across the whole world. We really have no idea. I think that's why it's important to just do whatever it is that you do and you're passionate about. And then you just kind of leave the rest up to the universe, right? It's like, I'm just going to do what I care about and what I'm passionate about right here. And then who knows if it goes anywhere or if it doesn't or whatever. I think the rest of it's kind of out of our hands, but we never know how we're impacting people on whatever scale it is. I think the bottom line is you just kind of got to do whatever your heart's telling you to do and then hope for the best.
What a great segue. Can you talk about the relationship between emotional intelligence, which you just described, and effective communication?
100%. So this is really the core of my teaching is can I break it down to you real scientific?
Sure.
And then I'll kind of work backwards? All right. So here was the most kind of amazing finding for me that really bridged everything together. When I was studying at the Cognitive Behavioral Institute, we learned about these things called mirror neurons. And what mirror neurons are, ultimately, is when we witness someone going through something, it doesn't matter what it is. When we just watch somebody experience something, we have an empathetic response to that. Okay, so the way I explain it is it's remember the show Jackass?
Yeah.
It's why the show Jackass worked. You see a guy get kicked in the stomach by a bull, and you go, oh, like that.
Right.
And the thing is, you're not getting kicked by the bull. You're safe in your living room on your couch, right? But you see that happen, and you go, oh, because you're having a physical, empathetic response to seeing someone go through something. And there are a lot of studies that suggest that's where empathy comes from in our brain. It's one of the many things that connects us. But we can understand what someone's going through, and we can, to a very small degree, feel what they're feeling. This is the reason why movies work, right? This is the reason why TikTok is so popular. It's when you're watching an action movie, and there's a big car chase and they're jumping over a bridge and it almost doesn't get there. Your heart is pounding, but you're safe. You are safe in a movie theater sitting in a chair, right? Or in a horror movie, right? Someone's about to go to the door and the killer's behind it and you're wanting to scream. You're like, no. You're completely safe, but you're able to empathetically feel what you see someone else going through. And that right there that's mirror neurons. That's our empathetic responses. Now, the thing is that we as people respond to the same way to our imagination and to the words that are either spoken to us or we say to ourselves. So what that means is, if we're imagining something terrible happening, you text a loved one and they don't text back right away. And immediately your mind goes to something terrible. Are they in a car crash? And you start imagining the car crash. You will start experiencing the emotional distress that you would be experiencing if it actually happened, just from the picture you're painting in your imagination or the words you're telling yourself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So here's the amazing part, is that you're actually able to control how you feel based on what you tell yourself, based on the images you create in your head, and all of that. Now, when we speak to each other, we are doing the same thing. When we speak to each other, we have the power to affect how we're feeling emotionally or how the other person is feeling emotionally, just based on what we say. So, for instance, if we ridicule someone, and here's the point, because of mirror neurons, it doesn't even have to be with our words, because 93% of communication is nonverbal.
Right.
It can just be if you walk into a room and somebody looks at you and gives you a dirty look and kind of looks you up and down with bombastic side eye, the same way that when you watch a movie, you get an emotional response, you will get an emotional response from them looking at you that way. And you'll start going, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? What did I do? Why does that person hate me? Why'd they give me that dirty look? What's happening? So we're able to affect each other, even on a nonverbal communication level, emotionally, all of the time. And when we experience ridicule, it triggers the same chemical reaction in the brain as a punch in the stomach, which is to say the hormone cortisol. On the flip side, when we encourage somebody, when we go, that was awesome, I saw what you did, that was incredible, I really love what you do, I recognize it, and we encourage people, that triggers the same chemical reaction in the brain as a bump of cocaine. And it's dopamine, right? It's when we get encouraged or when we get applauded or when we get cheered on, there's something addictive about that. That's why stand-up comedians are all, adrenaline junkies.
Right.
Because if we get laughed at, then we're riding high. But if they don't laugh, then we are down in the dumps. And it's almost this moment-to-moment cluster bomb in our brain of hormones and emotions and all that stuff. So that was a very long and convoluted way to say that the way that we interact with each other, whether it's with words or actions, are always affecting us on an emotional level. Our brain is always trying to filter out pain or pleasure, and it's trying to go, am I accepted? Was this bad? Am I being encouraged? What's going on? And that all has to do with just how we speak to each other. And the last example I'll give you is the important, when I worked in the prisons, especially when I worked in rehabilitation, when we talk about having people transform their lives, as in you don't want to be a prisoner anymore, you want to start contributing to society. One of the things that we would say is you got to change the way you speak to yourself. So rather than saying, this was something that we said all the time, and we used a different word, but for sake of the FCC, I'm going to edit myself. We used to say, instead of saying I am a mess up, right? In prison we used to say F up, but right. instead of saying I, or a better one is instead of saying I am a failure, I am a mess up, I am a terrible person, changing it and saying I messed up, I did a terrible thing. And what that does is it reframes it cognitively. Instead of saying my entire existence, my entire identity is a bad guy, saying, I made a bad choice one day. I made a bad choice this moment or in that chapter of my life. It reframes it to say, well, in the next chapter, I'm able to make good choices. And we have a lot of moments in life. You can make bad choices in some and good choices in others. I'm choosing to make good choices. Just reframing those words can actually reframe not only the way you think about yourself, the way you feel about yourself, but it can change your entire motivation to how you make decisions.
I greatly appreciate everything that you said, and I want to thank you for the compliment. You didn't directly say this, but I feel emotionally intelligent because I gained a ton of weight when my wife was pregnant. Okay, I'm just kidding. All right. So, but I get it. I get it. You're feeling the other people's feelings and et cetera. So this is terrific. This is terrific. And you have an awesome demo video. Can you tell everyone where they can see it?
You can check out my demo videos either on my YouTube page, which is my name. It's just Dominic Syracuse on YouTube, or my website. It's cognitivebehavioraltheater.com, and that's theater with an ER for any theater geeks out there. And I actually have a few videos on there.
I want my listeners to know that this is my dream, teaching people about safety. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for my listeners, I couldn't live my dream. So on behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to live my dream. And I also want to continue to live my dream, and I'm excited to continue to spread the word of safety. Recently, I began a new service as a conference keynote speaker. So if anyone would like for me to speak at future events, or if anyone knows of an introduction or would like to discuss how we can work with one another, I'd love to do just that. The keynote speaking website is www.stress2logic.com. That is STRES2logic.com. If you're aware of any conference speaking engagements where you'd like to have me speak, I'd love an introduction. You can always share my electronic business card, which is Marcus Melnick, MarcusMelnick.com. Now, back to the show.
The first lesson you learn as an actor is objective and obstacle. Like what do I want and what is in my way? And I think a lot of times when people have such beautiful dreams and beautiful wants, and then they get bogged down by the obstacles, and I kind of view it a little differently. I'm like, I'm going to do it, run into it head first, figure out what obstacles are in the way, and then use my imagination rather than painting a picture of all the ways it can go wrong. I'm going to start using my imagination to start figuring out ways we can make it happen. And the second I found out about those Walmart grants, I was like, there's our through line. Let's go. Right. Let's do it. So I'm very grateful for it. And I'm happy to say that we're extending into 2025, and we're looking at possibly even doubling the amount of cities we go to and the amount of reach we have. So I've been very, very fortunate to do that. I'm very happy.
That's wonderful. Can you talk about the college market? What do you do in the college market? And this is a market I'm trying to break into. I got zero bookings so far. Did my follow-ups, but yeah, I don't think I'm not as dynamic as you are.
Oh no, I don't think it really even has anything to do with the being dynamic. I think, I have to tell you. So I'm a stand-up comedian as well. And I have in the 6 years I've been doing this now, I've only had one booking in the colleges as a stand-up comedian. Wow. And so I very much took that as you know what, as the college market isn't interested in my brand of comedy specifically, Mm-hmm. But what I do kind of focus on is college is very similar to corporations, very similar to the military. you think that there's just one, like if I were to go to a college, tell them what I do, you would assume that there's only one person who makes the decision, and then there's one source of funding that goes into it. But what I found out is it's actually completely different than that. It's almost like its own little ecosystem, to where there's multiple different groups and multiple different organizations within a single college that might be interested in having you come in. So the first, when I first started in the college market, I, made a spreadsheet of 2,700 colleges, and I sent that video that you said was so engaging to all of them, and I got nothing in response. 2,700 emails. I got maybe one thanks. Nobody was interested. And I didn't quite know what was going on. So what I ended up doing was I went into a local college, one that was more, central to me.
Right.
And I sat down with I asked for a meeting with the activities coordinator, told them what I do. And they said, oh, okay, this is really neat. They said, in my hometown, there's a lot of veterans. And so they said, we actually have a veteran thing coming up, and we'd love for something for our veterans, for our students who are veterans on the GI Bill. We'd love to have you come in for that. I said, great. So I went in, I did that. And then, of course, very important, I always bring cameras, and we filmed it and then sort of put it out to other people. And then other people within the college started to kind of take interest. So then there was a program called Strategies for Success and Leadership. And one of the students who was in there saw that and said, this would be good for my strategies class. And so I ended up going in and working with the strategies department. And then from there, the theater department heard about what I did, and they were interested. And so, and I'm very diligent about, anytime I get any opportunity like that, I ask, the professors, hey, would you mind, if you really liked it, would you mind filming a testimonial for me? Or would you mind giving me like a letter of recommendation? Or do you know anyone else? And then I talk to the activities board and say, do you know any other colleges that might be interested in this or have similar programs? And so what they end up doing is, reaching out to them and that kind of thing. And then I just, kind of go almost like a hunter, right? Like just go out and see what I can capture that day, and then kind of let it grow that way. That's actually how I found my way into APCA. Somebody was like, if you really want to find all of us at once or in one place, head to APCA, do the thing there and see and all of that. And so, like I said, it's a real diligent effort. But the interesting thing is, all you really need is one booking, and then you can figure out where to go within, and especially with you and the specific niches you have, especially with personal safety or with whatever that may be, that might not be something that the entire college would want to come listen to in the same way they'd want to come listen to a rock band or see a magician. But there might be especially clubs or organizations that could really benefit from what you do. Or another one is there might be curriculum in certain departments, like whether it's the criminal justice department or the whatever it may be. And they might go, oh, you know what? We'd love to have you as a guest speaker. And then the teachers find the funding and yada, yada, yada. So it's a complex world in the college system, but it's, if you just kind of got to dive in and then find your way around, kind of mapping out the terrain as you go.
Terrific. So as we're wrapping up, what final thoughts can you offer about what you do, and perhaps address something that I didn't ask? The floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate that. Here's the big thing, and you touched on it earlier when you used my favorite word, which is engaging. The real reason that I do what I do is because, like I said, I got into acting specifically because I love it and it's a lot of fun, and it brings me joy, and it's very engaging. It's a very visceral, engaging art form. And when I started learning about important things like mental health and effective communication and team building, all of the trainings they put me through were so boring.
Right.
Right. I was like, oh my gosh, the information is so good, but the training itself is so boring. And I always told myself, if I got up there, I would do all of this, but I would just make it engaging. I would make it to where we can get up and play a game and make it visceral and all of this stuff. And so that's what I decided to do. I decided to teach this stuff that's all very important for people to know, but I want to do it in a way that's really fun and really exciting. And I call it mixing the medicine in with the pudding.
Yep.
Because, I look at my kids. I have a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, and an 11-year-old, all boys. And the thing is, if I tell them to do their homework, they don't want to. It's a fight. Or if I tell them to do their chores, they're like, oh, we don't want to. It's going to take forever. Even if it's going to take 10 minutes. We don't want to do it. But if they're on their video games, they will play those for hours on end.
Yes. Without
question. They will get sucked into it. And that's not because our kids are, their minds are being warped by blah, 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 blah. It's because we as human beings, our brains love to be engaged. They love to be focused on a task, and even more, we like to have fun. We talk a lot in mental health about fight or flight, the fight or flight response, anxiety, fight, flight, or freeze. Well, the opposite of the fight or flight response is play.
Right.
If you have an animal at home, a dog or a cat, if they're scared or they're on alert, they'll be in fight or flight. But when they're not, chances are they're eating, sleeping, or playing.
Right.
And we as humans are the same way. We want to play too. And so what I want to do is what my mission is my mission is teaching the really important stuff about mental health, about emotional intelligence, about effective communication, but doing it in a way that's extremely fun, extremely engaging, and doesn't feel like an arduous task at all. And that's kind of the mission that I have, and I feel it's extremely effective. I feel like it's a breath of fresh air when it comes to this kind of work. And so if anybody's interested in seeing more, like I said, feel free to check out the website.
Can you tell everyone what that is again, and your contact information?
It's Cognitive Behavioral Theater.com. Again, longest title in the world, but cognitivebehavioraltheater.com. And a way to get a hold of me would just be email, and that's my email's an abbreviation of that. It's cogbetheater with an ER at gmail.com.
Awesome. Dominic, this was phenomenal. Thank you very much for your time today. I hope our paths cross in person again, maybe at a conference or a college. You're terrific.
Well, 100%. I absolutely would love to. The second that I heard you speak, and I can't tell you how grateful I was, because your speech laid the groundwork for because we only get 10 minutes, and I'm used to, as you can tell, I am not a man that's short on words. Right. So I'm a man that's short in general. I'm not a man that's short on words. So when I heard when they said I only had 10 minutes, I'm going, how am I going to explain all of these concepts in 10 minutes? But luckily you came in and provided this very beautiful groundwork on all the stuff we were talking about stress and cortisol, and this is how your mind works, and I went, perfect. It was a perfect 1-2 punch. So all that said, I would love to collaborate with you
Absolutely.
In the future. Love to collaborate moving forward, and I think we can do a lot of cool, fun stuff.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you for being on the show. And cut. All right, so we're good. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to conclude the show on a little bit of a sour note because the Federal Appellate Court, 7th District, has kept in place the assault weapons ban pending trial. So Judge McClin said that the PICA law was unconstitutional. However, the appellate court did not agree with him and therefore has said, no, we're going to keep the ban in effect until this goes to trial. Now, the good news is there are several lawsuits throughout the country, and they're all destined for the Supreme Court. Now, if you remember, the Supreme Court of the land leans conservative based upon the Trump appointees. Now, you might not like it. You might like it. I don't know. That is the fact of the case. They will probably be deciding in the near future if we can have, quote, assault weapons, which we all know is a made-up term. So, sorry to give you that bad news, but it is news that you need. I hope you have a wonderful week. Please tune in next week for another episode. And for now, this is Marcus Melnick signing off. We have monthly concealed carry license CCL classes in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Dates can be seen at firearmmentor.com/classes. If you have a question, we can be reached at www.firearmmentorcard.com. That is our electronic business card, has all of our contact information and links in it. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the shooting range. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor signing off. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.